Welcome to Disturbing the Peace. I'm your host, John Amanchukwu, coming to you live from Refi Studios. What happens when the institutions people depend on stop protecting the public and start betraying their trust? Today, Ghie Paul Nora joins me live from Spain with a first-hand look at the unprecedented migrant surge shaking Europe and why he believes America should be paying close attention. Then, investigative journalist Tony Ortiz helps us unpack Anthony Fauci's decision to plead the fifth more than 100 times before Congress and the shocking Houston funeral home scandal that exposed breathtaking failures in oversight and accountability. This is a conversation about trust, truth, and the cost of failed leadership. All here today on Disturbing the Peace.
From heaven, there's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you, let's disturb the peace. With John Amanchukwu, disturb the peace.
Joining me now is Ghie Paul Nora, Lebanese-American entrepreneur, venture capitalist, war veteran who fought as a Christian militiaman during the Lebanese Civil War at age 15. He's in Spain. He's going to report on what's taking place. Ghie, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, John. Always a pleasure to be on your show now. I really enjoyed the last one. So,
yes, same here. So you are in Spain. Why are you in Spain? And also, what are you seeing as it relates to this major takeover that's taking place in Spain at this time?
Okay, so I'm in Spain. Once a year I sponsor a group of students to travel overseas, always Spain and Barcelona, and we perform for 10 days. And I'm the sponsor for that. It's one of my efforts in the philanthropy side of things, and it's a great program, and I'm really proud to be involved with it. But yes, we're in ground zero, and John, what I want to do is I'm going to give you and your audience as much background as possible, because it's incredibly complex. But the key is understanding the variables rather than the actual whatever's happening. So, and then I'll leave it up to you to ask the questions and clarifications. But luckily I'm caught up on it, and I've spoken with several people here, both in and out of government, reporters, etc. So I've got some pretty good feel here.
Okay, that sounds good.
So I can start by saying that it's still very fluid. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I don't know if Americans know, is that the two cities they're referring to are actually in Africa, adjacent to Morocco. Mm-hmm. So they're not on, European Spanish soil. They're on the other side, and then the third thing is that it happened so suddenly. People just didn't know what to expect, and the last and most important thing is that those two cities are actually the entrance from Africa into the EU. So once you get into there, on paper, you can go anywhere in the EU that you want. So it's the entry point. Imagine in the US we only had one in El Paso.
Wow.
That would be like that.
Okay. And so you see here, even in the video clips that we're showing, it looks like a major takeover. But one of the unique things that you see is that many of these guys are military aged, but you don't see any kids. You don't see any women. I don't see any armed babies.
Yeah.
So this is just
that's all. So a great question, because I think when we look at these situations, I think the first thing we need to look at is who's actually crossing, because if it's what you just said, which is fighting age males, that's not necessarily a good thing,
Right.
right? Too much testosterone, especially different cultures and so on. So I think that's the first thing. Yes, you noticed exactly right, and that gives me concern, and I think it gave a lot of people concern watching this.
Between 49,000 and 60,000 military age males crossed into a city of 83,000 people in hours. In hours. I mean, if they would have brought children and women, the people who crossed over would have outnumbered everyone who was in that city. And so Elon Musk said all military age males means it's an invasion. At what point does a migration crisis become something else entirely? And is this an invasion? Private student loan debt in the U.S. totals about $300 billion. About $45 billion of that is labeled as distressed. YRefi refinances distressed or defaulted private student loans that others won't touch. They provide you with a custom loan payment based on your ability to pay. YRefi can save you thousands of dollars by refinancing and even lower your total cost. Just call 888-YRefi-85 or log on to YRefi.com. That's YREFY.com.
It's a geopolitical game playing, which is different from what I think we saw over the last 4 years under Biden, right? This is the okay. So every regime in the region has very strong intelligence bureaus, and they do a lot in manipulating their populations. So this is just a stipulation on my side, but I think what happened, and that was an excuse that was used. The Prime Minister of Spain, and these are either a tribunal or the government passed a law that they will not accept anyone who swims into any of these two regions as a refugee anymore unless they're under 16. If you remember, he did a bunch of amnesty a while back, and he accepted 100,000 people, and people were pretty upset about that. So that was a little bit of a pushback. And the second the Moroccans found out about this, I think they were upset, because if you looked at the footage, they were first of all, it was on social media. They said to all these kids, "Hey, come on over, to these two places. We're going to take them back." That was the first thing, and people believe that, which is not true, because they're still in negotiations, and who knows if they'll ever take them back. It's historically they've been for Spain for 400 years. And the second thing is, was there a message sent from the government of Morocco, which in this case, of course, would be the king, to the EU, to Spain? I mean, lots of conspiracy theories, and we can go through them if you want. But this is hopefully in general that kind of gives you the picture.
So when you look at everything from your vantage point, you're on the ground. Are you concerned about your welfare while being there right now? I use this great analogy, and hopefully, people will get this one. So, what happens with me, for instance, I used to live in, a while back in the San Francisco Bay Area, right? And there would be an earthquake in LA, and half of my friends all over the world would call me up and say, "Are you okay?" And I'd be like, "Why? What happened?" So where I am in Catalonia and Barcelona, we're hours and hours away from where this action is taking place.
So what I'm hearing for people is they're seeing it on TV for the first time, like we did for 4 years. And that was very, very shocking to the population. But no one other than those 2 cities right now was concerned. And the people in the cities, just so you know, they basically shut down everything. They shut down all the stores. They shut down everything. And they basically said to those 60,000 people, you're not welcome here. You can't eat, you can't drink, you're not going to swim anywhere. And of course, the government actually sent the police and the military.
You're in Catalina and Barcelona. It's only a matter of time that these people begin to migrate to where you are, albeit you're only there for a short period of time. Consider the nearly 15 million criminal illegal aliens that were allowed in our country. You know, they've migrated all over the U.S. And so it may start in a small area, a small region, but these people are going to drift all throughout that local region, and it's going to be a problem. Let me say this. You lived through Beirut, going from the Paris of the Middle East to a failed state. What are the parallels you see right now between Lebanon before its collapse and what is happening in Europe today?
You know, politics are the weirdest thing in the world, and unfortunately, war is always becomes a reflection of politics. What's happening now is that you've got what I'm gonna, this is my term, a guilty conscience left in Europe, everywhere in Europe. Guilty because of World War I, World War II, colonization, etc. So they take that with them, and they're like, everybody's welcome any day, any time, any religion, because we sinned. So there's a lot of that that's going on. And meanwhile, on the right, you have people just like in the US that are saying, no, we have our own flavor as nations and as countries. And if you want to come in, we would like you to assimilate. And if you add another factor here, which is it's easier for Ghie Nora, Christian Lebanese, to assimilate in the United States than it is for somebody from Yemen who's Muslim to assimilate to the United States or to Europe or to any of these places, right, that people go to. So you're right. This is an existential issue. And John, I will add, it's ironic that it's happening in Spain because, as you know, the history was that after Muhammad and all of his conquests, they took all of North Africa. They took a big chunk of Spain and southern France, and then the Reconquista, pushed them back. So this is the arc of history, my friend. This is, you're on it. You just said it. This, it's instead of guys with crescents and swords, it's just these kids that you showed on TV.
Yes, I agree with that. You mentioned the assimilation of Muslims and Christians. Why is that different when these two different groups come to locations? Why?
And then John, just so that you know, I became such an American and so tolerant of everybody once I've lived here 50 years that it pains me to say this, but Sharia law, which is what runs Islam, is not compatible with our Constitution. It's just that simple. It's a political system, it's a governance system, and it's a religious system all in one. We have separation in the United States, and as does the rest of Europe. But so it's very, very difficult for your average Muslim person to come into a different society like this and to understand and separate in their own mind those three things I mentioned to you: politics, governance, and religion. It's all one. And again, that's not going to work with the Constitution. You've got to make a choice. If I was king for a day, I'd be, okay, everybody that's come from these places, are you going to be an American and follow the Constitution, or are you going to be Sharia law and not follow the Constitution? And don't lie, because we'll catch you. And, again, it pains me to say this because it took, you know, anyway, you get what I'm saying. So
Yes, I do. I have some close-up video footage as well of this invasion. Take a look at this. Ghie, what goes through your mind as you see that?
It's chilling. You know, I think about all of the caravans that came to our country a couple of years ago, right? Remember, we used to watch them on TV, and that's what woke up the American public, actually. And I think that might be what wakes up the European public. That because of social media, you can galvanize and you can actually organize this exact kind of behavior where, you know, it's like, oh yeah, we're taking back the land that was ours.
Yes, I agree with that. You know, Spain denied U.S. military bases for operations against Iran, withdrew its ambassador from Israel, and is now receiving migrants. Iran's embassy is calling punishment for defying America. What is the geopolitical game being played here? You referenced that earlier, but unpack that for us. What is verbatim, be specific, be clear. What is the geopolitical game and who is losing?
So if we took the frame that you just made, you would say Felipe Sanchez, pissed off, excuse my language, you know, upset the president of the United States by not letting us use their bases. Mm-hmm. Obviously, probably one of the most anti-Israel governments in Europe as well. And the king of Morocco and the Moroccans are saying, America is not going to be mad at us, whatever we do from here on. And again, I'm very, very careful about this because I think we have maybe you and I can have another discussion on this, but I do think anti-Semitism is the canary in the gold mine for societies. And I think there's a background saying, of course, the Israelis are behind this. It's Mossad. And that's why the king that's why he's sending all these people to Spain, because Spain doesn't like us. But that's the geopolitical game here. You got a king who felt strongly enough and whose intelligence services felt strongly enough that the United States was going to not be upset at this violation of EU frontiers because Spain's president was anti-American. And of course, he's very anti-Israeli. So that's kind of now we don't know, right? You know, who knows what our administration is thinking, and you know what Secretary Rubio and you know everybody else. But that's what's being discussed a lot, which is, oh, there we go. We pissed off the U.S. and now they're doing this to us.
You know, I want to say this to you. There are people who become inflamed when you start talking about illegal immigration. I don't always address all of my naysayers and detractors and people who send me hate mail. But every now and then I expose these people for the vile, just detestable people that they are. I want to show you this screenshot here. This is a guy by the name of Javier Curiel. And this is what he sent me back on July 5th. He says, I hope you and your family get Charlie Kirked. Speaking on illegal immigration like you know what the F you're saying, you dumb N-word. I hope you see nothing but black soon. And then he puts up a skull. Yeah. Insane. So
John, on behalf of humans everywhere, I apologize for the hate mail that this creates. So first and foremost, I tell you what, I don't, you know, I've put my life on the line once before for something I felt very strongly about, and that was protecting my people. When it comes to illegal immigration, I would put my life on the line again, and that gentleman can come after me, because my people are not the American people. And I'm not going to have them get deluded. I'm not going to have them suffer. I'm not going to have them not be able to afford anything because of illegal immigration.
Yes.
And Congress has got to get its act together and pass laws that make sense for our nation. But I'm the rare, I guess, conservative who's like, you know what? Beat up the businesses that hire these people. Shut them down. Because I would much rather have Americans get these jobs than illegals. I don't care. It's not about gross margin here. I'm a businessman. I understand that, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely not. I will die for my fellow Americans so that they get these jobs. And by the way, it's usually not the rich people, right? It's not the hedge fund guy in Wall Street. It's the family in Chicago that needs a job, which is now sitting around going, well, we can't get jobs because we're supposed to get minimum wage and the other guy's getting 60% of that.
Can compassion and strong border enforcement coexist? Or has the West convinced itself that any enforcement is cruelty?
John, pictures like what you just showed me earlier start knocking sense into people. I strongly believe that the U.S., when people were watching these caravans one after the other with the previous administration acting like they cared, people do wake up and they do realize what you just said, which is, yes, of course we have to have compassion. But first and foremost, it's about us. It's about our families. It's about our co-citizens. And then we show compassion for the outside. But it starts with us, because we're the people that are here now. We're the people that have paid the price to be here. We're fortunate to be here, and we want to live that dream. And you can't take it away from us because you're a compassionate liberal arts major.
Yes, I agree.
By the way, I am one, by the way, just so you know. I mean, a liberal arts major, right?
Right. That's funny. What separates assimilation from simply crossing a border? And why does it matter to the survival of a nation?
There's such a thing as the spirit of a nation, all nations. And the spirit of a nation is an addition of every factor that exists in this nation. And the second you start diluting that with too much outside influence, you take away from the spirit of a nation. And we can't do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the spirit of this nation, of America?
I'm biased because I'm in love with this country and its people, but anybody could be anything they want to be, as long as they play by the rules and they believe in themselves. It's that simple.
You can't argue with that at all. Last question.
Yeah.
After everything you have experienced, the Civil War, the immigration, building a life in America, you were once at the age of 15 taking up arms to defend and protect your family. What still gives you hope for the future of the West?
I think we almost have to divide the West in two in a way. I think that America is the beacon. We're the city on the hill still. And I think we took some steps, obviously, with the last election to rectify. The border's been closed for 2 years now.
Right.
So I think we're addressing this dilution problem that I worry about. I don't know. I mean, again, the arc of history is very interesting. I don't know whether Europe, after the trauma of 2 world wars, will be able to, get the courage that it needs to fight for itself. Because there's so much self-loathing over 2 awful wars that took so many people. So it's kind of news at 11 kind of a situation, which is it's looking like, if there's no shenanigans, that the right capital R, the right parties are probably going to win in Spain and in France and in Germany, and Meloni is already in Italy. And these are the four big ones. And of course, the UK. So our side could end up being 5 for 5. And that would be the beginning. It started with the United States, and that would be the continuing of this kind of beginning of the pushback.
Mm-hmm. Ghie, thank you so much for joining me. You're live in Spain as we speak. You're in the safe part at the moment.
Yeah. For now. Right?
Yeah.
For now.
But just keep in mind to keep your head on a swivel, because those people who invaded that region, they're not going to stay stationary. They're going to disperse all throughout that region, and be alert. Thank you so much, my friend, for joining me. I look forward to bringing you back on the show again in the future.
Oh, it's a pleasure. God bless.
You too. God bless you as well. Take care. Joining me now on Disturbing the Peace is Tony Ortiz, veteran investigative journalist and broadcaster covering government accountability, public health policy, and breaking national stories. Tony, welcome back to Disturbing the Peace.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful, my friend. We have a lot to discuss. Let's talk about Dr. Anthony Fauci, who went before the Senate, and he just repeated himself over and over again, trying to invoke, the Fifth Amendment. Take a look at this video clip.
It was about 6 years ago today that I decided I'm going to give up my businesses, sell them all, run for office, run for the United States Senate. Here I am sitting in front of you 6 years later saying, who the f do you think you were for doing that? It is a total disgrace what you did to this country. And if my Democrat colleagues are standing there defending you, I hope the voters of the United States of America watch the clips of every one of you doting on a guy who was more interested in being a celebrity than saving American people. I will make it my mission to make certain that every single one of those Democrats who did that will see that clip over and over and over again. Because there is no defense of what you did. You may have had a 50-plus year legacy of public service, but it ends in total and complete disgrace.
So this guy, this fraudster, pled the Fifth Amendment 111 times. He said the same 24 words over and over again for nearly 3 hours. Tony, why does a man plead the Fifth that many times when he is supposedly innocent?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because he was so excited to do these interviews and do these shows and do these podcasts and these liberal interviews. He was so excited to be on TV. And then all of a sudden, here's your moment, right? You're on national television to defend your legacy and the decision you make, and you plead the Fifth. Obviously, there's something wrong here, right? And on a personal note, this guy belongs in jail. And everybody that can worked with him and everybody appointed to work with him and to push this stuff, we Americans lost years off their lives.
Yes.
These are taken away. Time is the one thing you cannot buy. Doesn't matter how rich or wealthy or powerful you are, you cannot buy time. Okay. And we had years of our lives stolen from us from this guy because of a flu that wasn't that dangerous. And I'd love to see him thrown in jail. I'd love to see everybody that was associated with him thrown in jail and have decades taken off their lives.
Did it stand out to you when Joe Biden pardoned him? I mean,
no, it's not surprising. That's not surprising. The Democrats really benefited from COVID, right? And a lot of that was because of who was in power at the time. It was Donald Trump, right? President Trump. And so they used it as a tool to kind of display that, their messaging was that he was incompetent. He wasn't handling this COVID thing wrong or properly. Right. I imagine if COVID had hit while a Democrat was in power, I think you would have seen a lot different response about lockdowns.
I have another video clip here of Ouchie Fauci. Take a look at this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, nothing says honesty like taking the fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic, you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich. And not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally.
All right,
cash
hold it right
prizes.
here. So we'll come back to this, but how did Fauci get rich off of COVID?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? And I don't know the specific details he's referring to as far as cash prizes, but he definitely got social media rich, right? I mean, this guy has been propped up as an icon. I think there's probably some liberal women that got his face tattooed on their body, if I recall correctly. I remember people getting their vaccination cards tattooed on their body. And, that being popular on social media and doing all these TV interviews and these appearances and all of that has its own set of wealth to it. And here's a guy that if he was truly serious about his job and he thought that the virus was dangerous as it actually was, and you think he'd show a little more subtlety in how he behaved and maybe, decline some of these celebrity appearances and just say, look, I'm just a guy doing my job. The real heroes are the nurses and the doctors. He could, and the people that enforce this. He could have said something like that, but he really leaned into it. And you see this a lot now online. A lot of these liberals are defending this guy online as he's some sort of, big hero.
Yes, I agree with that. But he sat there just smug. I mean, just keep in mind, 1 million Americans died because of COVID. 1 million.
Yeah.
And this guy sits there as if he's done no wrong, as if he's been pardoned, and therefore he can't answer not one question. He asked him, man, what color's your tie? He can't even say that. I mean, there's a big story releasing today about Roland Martin. I don't know if you know who that is. It's about Roland Martin. Roland Martin, I have dubbed him as the sassy Sasquatch bottom. There's a story coming out today at about 3 p.m. to talk about him, where he allegedly, even my name is allegedly, okay? He allegedly, a few years ago, put on a leopard print thong and was pegged by a woman who wasn't his wife. Now, I don't think that any dude should get pegged by their wife. This is just my personal opinion. I know the Bible says that the bed is undefiled, and what a person does in their bedroom is their business. But I'm just gonna put this out on Disturbing the Peace because it's my show and I can just say it. Something is wrong with you if you're getting pegged by your wife. God made men the peggers, okay? God gave us the authority to penetrate, and we are supposed to be delivering the penetration. And any man that signs up to now be the receiver, something's wrong with that man, Tony. Something is wrong with that man. And so I just want to say this, because I almost think that they should ask Dr. Anthony Fauci, hey man, are you wearing leopard print thongs just like Roland Martin? And just see him respond and say that I can't answer that question. It's just sad. What do you think, my man?
Man, we all got pegged by Fauci, during COVID, and it was not voluntary.
Right.
Yeah, I just, my rag was started out of the frustrations of COVID, and a lot of people got involved in politics because of COVID, and a lot of people lost their lives and had their businesses destroyed or had their lives ruined because of COVID. And I have a deep, deep hatred of this guy and the people that enforce these rules. I normally don't. I'm a pretty calm person when it comes to personal stuff on politicians and whatnot. But this guy, I really, really, really hate. And for what he did to Americans in the world. And he's been pardoned, so it's unlikely he's going to face any serious justice for what he's done. But eventually he will. Eventually he will. We all will, but especially him.
Yes, indeed. Take a look at this clip.
You personally, cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
You remember Greg Folkers? Who was that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Your chief of staff is the answer. Do you remember Patricia Conrad? Who was that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
She was your personal assistant. And what were these individuals doing in the depth of the pandemic in November of 2020 when millions of Americans were suffering from COVID? What were they doing? I tell you what they're doing. Folkers was on your behalf soliciting and gathering information for a cash award. Let's look at it. We've got his email right here, right over my shoulder. Folkers says, I'm working on this nomination for the Dan David Award for Fauci. We need to beef up the COVID part. Do you have language in the can that you could share that delineates how we responded in new ways to COVID? He sends this to multiple federal employees. What was the Dan David Award? Do you remember, Doc?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
It was a $900,000 cash award. $900,000 cash award. And he got it because he used federal employees to get it. And this wasn't the only award, was it, Dr. Fauci? In fact, you applied for and received at least 8 other federal cash prizes on federal time using federal employees and federal resources. Here they are over my shoulder. Besides the Dan David Award, you've got the Partnership for Public Service. You've got the Adelson Prize. You've got the Smithsonian Award. You've got the National Academy of Medicine's Award. You've got the CDC Foundation. In fact, you turned your staff into a full-time application machine. You actually wrote to people and said, do you think maybe I'd qualify? And you got cash for all of this. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 employees, was it? In fact, you use 8 separate federal employees on federal time using federal resources to solicit cash awards. Isn't that true?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Here they are right over my shoulder. Here's all of them. The people that you use, federal employees, so that you could go and get cash money. And the most hilarious part is that you weren't content to even dragoon them into applying for all of these cash awards. You then had them go out to the ethics agencies and ethics watchdogs and demand that you be able to get the money. That's right. We've got it in your emails. Your staff and employees on federal time, using federal resources, being paid with federal dollars, are soliciting cash for you. And then they're turning around and saying to the agency, we don't want just an answer. We want to get to yes, because Fauci wants the money. He wants it. We want to get to yes, and yes takes time. This is your chief of staff again, using federal email to pressure the agency's own ethics people so that you could get money, so that you could get rich. And it violated the law, didn't it, Dr. Fauci?
Hold it right here. The Bible says that the love of money is the root cause of all evil, which some have coveted after, and they have erred, they have even abandoned the faith because of their desire for money. Tony, how does that apply to Dr. Fauci here?
Yeah, he's not only abandoned his faith, he's abandoned his fellow man, right? Mm-hmm. Like he was willing to sell out this entire country and business owners and even children. Like look at this generation of children that grew up during COVID and how they're behaving now. I mean, they're totally cooked. Their brains are just they're socially inept. It's you have an entire generation who's just not there anymore. And so yeah, he sold his soul. He sold his soul out. He sold out he sold out, you know, who he was to God. He sold it out to who he was as a United States citizen and his fellow man, and what he did to children across the country and across the world, you know? So yeah, I'm just disgusted with this guy.
Rand Paul is moving toward a contempt referral to the DOJ. The DOJ will decide whether to pursue it. What are the odds that justice actually happens here? And what does it mean for public trust if it doesn't?
Zero. I don't think anything happens. I'm on team nothing ever happens, and this is one of those cases where I think that applies. I think he gets off scot-free. I think what it says to American people is that, you know, corruption continues in this country, and that people with enough power, connections, and responsibility get away with whatever they want to get away with, and eventually this all gets swept under the rug, and something else happens, and we forget about this, you know, 3 to 6 months from now, and it pops up every once in a while. But it's something I think maybe 30, 40 years from now, when kids are studying this in school, or when we look back, and hopefully we still have a country by then, we look back and we realize what, you know, how much we messed up. There's a lot of mistakes that this country's made, and things that we've done that we're not proud of. And we look back and we regret those decisions, and we look back at those decisions in shame, and we look back at those people that implemented those decisions with disgust. And I think this is one of those moments.
I now want to transition from talking about Washington, D.C. and this detestable person in Anthony Fauci to Houston, to a more just overly blatant, just stupid situation. I mean, it's just people do the most corrupt things. I mean, we're going to talk about this individual by the name of Unique Micah Green Battle, also known as Michael Green in court records, operator of a community funeral home on Wheeler Avenue in Houston's 3rd Ward, was arrested July 21st, 2026, and charged with 5 felonies: theft of more than $300,000, 4 counts of forgery, and tampering with government records. Hold on to your seat, disturbing the peace, when you see a look at this individual in this clip. Watch.
I don't have nothing to say.
Pause it.
Tonight,
oh my goodness. Do you hear that? I don't have nothing to say.
I feel like, you know, this guy ripped off a lot of people, and you got to wonder if these people were like Google searching this funeral home that he opened, and like,
right.
You go to the about page and like, do you see who runs this? And it's like, oh, this person named Unique Micah Green, who looks like that. I would just be like, you know, we're not burying grandpa here. We're not sending grandpa here. I don't know.
Yeah, you would.
Maybe it's me.
You wouldn't send your worst enemy there. Watch.
Houston funeral director accused of stealing the identity of a dead man to gain access to his estate. It's getting a lot of attention for comments made after a court hearing today. Unique Green dodged questions specific to the case, but still had lots to say.
KPRC 2 News reporter Bryce Newberry is live in the newsroom tonight with the latest twist in this case. Bryce.
Yeah, Keith and Lisa, Unique Green is accused of posing as the wife of a dead man to allegedly steal his estate worth more than $2 million after his family hired Green to handle funeral arrangements. And despite claiming to have nothing to say after court today, Green fired back at a lot of questions.
I'm a celebrity. I don't have anything to say.
Surrounded by cameras, that's Unique Green storming out of the courtroom Friday.
I don't have nothing to say.
Just days after getting released from jail on an $800,000 bond. But who paid it? Green didn't have many answers about that or about forged documents prosecutors say got filed to steal Lawrence Gammon's estate, including vehicles, retirement accounts, and this home in Southwest Houston, all worth more than $2 million when he passed away last summer.
I'm such a celebrity. I'm a celebrity.
Did you forge those documents?
Did your mother forge them? Did your mom forge them?
No answers there either. When Houston police raided Green's funeral home in the 3rd Ward last November, investigators allegedly found a Home Depot bucket full of organs. So what about those?
They were for you to eat for lunch.
Green is now free from jail on 5 felony charges after Gammon's family paid Green for funeral services they say they never got. The family provided his personal information over email, investigators say, and within weeks, Green allegedly filed this fraudulent last will and testament, claiming to be his common-law spouse left with his entire estate.
When we bury a loved one, we cry together, we smile together, we laugh about good times, and we remember a life well lived. Green has effectively robbed this family of that experience.
Prosecutor Adam Broderick called it a sophisticated scheme that led to a months-long investigation. Green is now also accused of forging paperwork, including falsely claiming to have military experience to get funeral director and embalming licenses from the State Funeral Commission.
She has always claimed her innocence, that she's not guilty, and that's an explanation for all this evidence against her.
All right, before we get to the mortuary science license and everything like that, who brings their deceased family member to this person?
And there's one more body that maybe that Unique Micah Green should handle when Anthony Fauci dies of an older age, of a very old age, because obviously he's going to live forever.
Right?
Maybe Green can handle that one. That's the last one we let him handle.
I think that's fair. You know what I mean? So a family hired someone to bury their loved one. Instead, that person allegedly forged a will, claimed to be his wife, and stole his entire $2.2 million estate. When you heard the story, what stood out most to you?
When they heard the name, I heard the name first, and then when I saw the picture of the dude that was doing this, I was like, wow, it looks exactly like I imagined. But what stands out the most is that the tried and true saying that you can fake it till you make it. I mean, this guy made it, right? Like for a while at least. I mean, he's got a very large business. They show his business. It's huge. He's got his whole funeral home. He faked his licenses. He faked probably an entire apparatus. And he's got families sending bodies to him to literally take care of, and he's throwing things in buckets. I do think it's funny that they specifically named that it's a Home Depot bucket. Like, dang, Home Depot just catching strays in this reporting. It's for Houston. I guess I'm not super surprised these sorts of things happen. And then I just don't see how anybody fell for this. Like, I don't know. I would imagine that when a loved one passes away, you do some research and maybe kind of see who's running the place that you're sending a loved one's body to. And if that guy's photo popped up, I'd immediately go to the next search result.
Yes, indeed. Green was operating an unlicensed funeral home, had a county contract worth $716,000. And so for all the black people out there who say you can't make it in America, this guy got a $716,000 contract. I mean, betraying his own identity at the same time. And he was making it. You know, he was reportedly transporting bodies, get this, Tony, in U-Hauls. Bodies in U-Hauls. 3 families accused her of holding bodies hostage. And it took a police raid during a live funeral service to stop it. How does something like this happen for this long?
You know, you can get those U-Hauls, I believe, for like $29.99 an hour. So it's, at least he's fiscally conservative business owner. You know, what's really crazy is that this guy had government contracts, you know, for that amount of money. And you know, he had a legitimate business going, and he just flew a little too close to the sun with trying to steal, you know, $2 million out of this guy's estate. If he had just kept his head low and maybe been operating and trying to, like, you know, run an actual decent business, he may have gotten away with this for who knows how many more years. I imagine eventually would have caught up, but that's a lot of money. You'd think that a guy like that would at least dress a little bit better or have some. He's not very passive. We've seen a lot of these trans individuals lately, and you know, they give enough money, they look a little bit better than that. But this guy is not passing. Every day we stray there. We are farther from God's light, and this is an example of this.
Hey Don, can you pull up another clip of Unique and maybe show his chest? I want to show you something here, because the guy had a $716,000 contract, was trying to swindle someone out of $2 million. So show a still frame of this guy Unique storming out of the courtroom, and maybe we can take a look at maybe where the money may be going. Now, come on, Tony. I mean, I've been married now for 18 years. You know, that's not an A cup. That's not a B cup. That's not C. Man, bro's rocking double D's, man.
See, you say that, but he was running U-Hauls. I think he was being fiscally. There's a possibility he's being conservative here with his money, and maybe some of those organs are missing out of that Home Depot bucket, and he's got them put in other places. Maybe organ transplants.
Maybe that's what's going on, because yeah, he's saving money on the U-Hauls, but he's trying to get this makeover. Okay, and so I guess now he did a little bit to the face, but that wasn't cutting it. So he went to the chest, and next I guess he's doing the whole booty thing. Who knows what's going on here? But this guy is despicable. You see, borders, public health, and the care of the dead are 3 of the most fundamental things a society owes its people. All right, all 3 were in crisis this week. At the same time, from all the issues of things going on in Spain, to the problems with Fauci, to now Houston. What does that tell us about the moment we are in when you look at all the 3 major problems this past week: borders in Spain, public health, Fauci, and the care of the dead?
Yeah, it's not going good. It's not going well. You know, and you know, you could argue maybe this is just the news putting out really bad news consistently for clicks, but world's not in a great place, and it feels like things continue to get worse. We can only hope that, you know, maybe if things do get rock bottom, that it gives us an opportunity to rebuild and start things a little bit cleaner. But right as it is right now, things are pretty rough.
Yes, you know, Tony, thank you so much for joining me here on Disturbing the Peace. You know, as we see it right now, borders are unprotected. A scientist, Dr. Fauci, pled the fifth 111 times. A family whose loved ones were violated. These are not separate stories. They are one story. And that story has a name. It is the consequence of a people who forgot that there is a God who sees, a God who judges, and a God who does not tolerate corruption forever. I want to close today with this word. Proverbs 14:34 says this: righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. Spain is not Spain's problem. Fauci is not Fauci's problem. And Houston is not Houston's problem. These are symptoms of a nation that has moved righteousness to the margins, and they call it progress. Proverbs said it thousands of years ago. Sin is a reproach to any people. Any people. That means us. That means the Amanchukwus and the Ortizes. And the only way out is the same way in. A return to the God who built this nation. The God who gave us the standard. And the God who is still watching what we do with it. Tony, I'll give you the closing 30 seconds. What are your thoughts about this?
It's really important, all that you said, and really important that the youth start to embrace this. We need to focus on the youth who has had their brains damaged by the COVID lockdowns, and hopefully return to kind of pushing them towards more of a religious mindset, hopefully getting them back to church. The birth rate's down, marriage rates are down, families are not solid, right? We're not seeing people go to church every day like we probably should. So hopefully we see a start to return to that. That's something that we should be focused on.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tony, for joining Disturbing the Peace. I'll have you back on, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
You too. God bless you. Hey, from Spain to Fauci to this unique funeral home director, we know we need revival. But hear me. Revival is up to God, but repentance is up to us. We must repent of our sins. And when we do that, God will send the revival. I hope you were blessed by this show today. Do me a big favor. Go to my social media page on YouTube. It's John Amanchukwu. Like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Set your notifications so you know when I'm going live. And then go over to the audio platform, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and give me a 5-star review. And let me know in the comment section below. Am I right or am I wrong? Am I weak or am I strong? God bless you, and God bless America. Take care.